This week's video is a little bit more special than usual because we got a whole train set to look at. It's too big for me to fit in frame, but it's the Hornby breakdown hauler. So I'm going to pull it out, look at the rolling stock, look at the controller, and say absolutely nothing about the track because there's no point, because everyone watching this has probably seen Hornby track before and has their own different opinions on it. There's also a track map, but again, you probably have one, and you probably, it's self-explanatory. It's a track map. There's no point in me showing it because everyone's seen a version of it. This is a basic starter set. You get your 040, a breakdown crane, and then this random box van. It's a really terrible one, so I use the Santa Express. So, yeah. We'll start off by looking at the rolling stock, move our way to the loco, and then finally to the controller. This here is the basic railroad box van. It's not good, but it's not bad. It is, it's basic, but it's a starter set item. You can't really be surprised that it's basic. A nice note about these is they actually share the same chassis as the old Hornby hoppers, so that's why it looks a bit odd here and here with the bands coming a little short. I don't know if it has any real world basis, but yeah. Metal axles with plastic wheels, very light. It is very, very light. Just 4 clips holding it on, and it's got the D-style tension lock couplings. I don't mind these. I know some people despise them, but yeah, it's nice enough. It goes well with a breakdown crane. Hazard signs there and there for electrocution, and yeah, not really much that can be said about that. I might weather this whole train at some point, or get someone to weather it for me, just to see how it looks. But yeah. So it's a nice addition. I probably won't run it often, but it's nice to have this. We'll look at the loco next. It's a little bit of an unusual order to do this in, but the crane's sort of the main focus of attention. So we'll look at this guy first. The story of me acquiring this train set is a little bit of a weird one. I went into a charity shop one day just because I had some time to kill whilst I was in town, and I saw it in the window and asked how much they want. They said 200. I said that I don't think it's a very good price, and somehow got them down to 50 quid plus extra bits. I don't know how I did it, but I did. And in there was this loco. This is the loco from the set, and I have done some things to it. I've mostly just filled it to the brim with lead. It is really heavy actually, but when I first got it, I looked at the wheels and they were spotless. It was like it had never been run before. It was like a brand new model. And, it's like no one ever used it. The last time I looked at all of these Hornby 040 chassis was in the first proper video of this channel. So let's have a look at this one. Here we go. It's the same as that first chassis I looked at. The only difference being there's no cylinder here, and then no rods coming from here to here, and here to here. But yeah, it's the same thing. The only real difference I think of is the motor. This is way slower than the one that pug I did last time. You can see some of the weights I put in there. And on the inside, I went overboard, I will admit. It's really heavy, and I actually think some of this lead is actually touching the motor and making it sound weird. So I'll have to scoop some out at some point. Putting the screw back in. When it comes to details on this loco, you get your separately fitted buffers, but that's standard now. You get a decent-ish coal load, water filler caps, but they're very, very basic. A lamp on the back, and a hook there and there. This model's origin started off as a Hornby Thomas. This was made back in the 80s when they first did the Hornby Thomas range. They just wanted something for the starter sets, and they used this. Monty Poots has an excellent video where he shows off an 060 version he has. It's really nice, it actually looks amazing. This version here is a little bit worse for wear. The lining's starting to fade here. It's got well, I had terribly dirty wheels when I first got it, and it's just showing signs of age now. It really does need a cleaner, nice tidy up. As for this guy, the only real difference is it's been repainted and they gave it a smoke box and door. I'd like to try detail this at some point. I was thinking repaint it into BR black or something, but I already have one, so I don't really know. I'm tempted to try turning it into like an NCB colliery shunter, but honestly I don't know. It's just sort of one of those things I have now. If I were to turn it into a colliery shunter, I'd probably remove the splashes at the front. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to do with this. I might turn it into a colliery shunter, I might not. I haven't really made my mind up yet. I'd at least like to fit a crew, and the bare minimum give it a little bit of a weathering. Because surprisingly I quite like this. I like it a lot more than I was expecting to. It runs really well, but as I said, it's like new. It's like no one ever ran this thing. And the granddaddy himself. This here is actually based off an old lemur tooling, I believe. There's no real world basis for this, I don't think. However, there are some similar looking VR cranes. I quite like this. It's generic enough to where you can get away with it on nearly any layout, but I really do think there are some nice details. I like the hook designs, I think they're nice. This one here is a nice cast metal, and you really do feel the weight on it. This plastic one up here isn't really useful, you can't pick anything up, but it just looks nice. It's just nice to have it there. On the sides here and here, you have two of these little holes, and you get a key. You put your key in, and it just allows you to adjust the crane. This first one is just for lowering or raising the jig. The second one just allows you to drop or raise the hook. I've had a couple of these come through my hands now, and I never really keep any for that long, but I do think they're nice. I haven't had one of these show up in my hands in red yet. I have a yellow one at the moment, and I have a red steam crane. Here's the other one that people always have. This dates back to an old triangle tooling, I believe, and they still make it to this day, I believe. I think the tool on it's definitely showing its age. However, all weathered up, it really does look apart. Considering how cheap these cranes are, they're not bad. If you're not too obsessed with everything needing to be prototypical, this is an alright crane. If you're not too bothered about needing to do work to them all yourself, this ain't bad either. I prefer how this doesn't actually have a key, because whenever you get these cranes, they always lose their keys. You can still see they actually use the lemur couplings on here. It's a lot thicker than the Hornby D-shaped tension locks. On the bottom, you got plastic wheel for the jib. It's really nasty actually. It's not a good feeling model. Underneath, pure plastic for the axles and wheels. They're really nasty. It's just super duper light, and yeah, it's just not nice. The molding on it's decent, but the quality just doesn't feel like it's there. It's also way too light. You know, this guy has a fair chunk of weight, but there's nothing. It's way too light. There's a little bit of detail under here, and I think that's a nice touch, but it's not a nice molding. This bit here with the crane arm rests swivels, so as you're going around bends and stuff, crane arm moves, and then it won't derail because it's fixed in place and just gone bang. The printing for the hazard stripes on both is a really nice touch. It's really high quality. Here I got a weathered one to show what one can look like. This ain't the best example in the world. I don't think this is a good job at weathering. I'm really disappointed in it actually. I want to come back at some point, strip it bare and just do it properly. But you can see all the moulding actually starts to come out into its own element. You can see all these vents here and here. They've all become super clear because it looks like there's oil and grime in the vents. Same for this vent here, even on the back, it just elevates it. It just highlights some of the details and just really plays with your head in a way. It just makes it feel more lived in and more worn, but in a good way. Same goes for the jib that the crane arm rests on. It just highlights between all the boards here. It just highlights details, but I don't think it's a good weather job. I'm not happy with it, but you can see that it's highlighted some of the details you can't really see when it's all one colour. When it comes down to the track you get in this set, it's very, very generous with the straights it gives you. There's also a set of points, but I've pinched them from this box and put it with the rest of them. I like to keep them all in one space just so I know where all my points are. There is a little bit for me to say about this. It's the Hornby train set controller. This came in every single Hornby train set up until 2020, I believe. It's a very infamous controller. Some people tolerate it, some people despise it. There's nothing really special about it. You can go forward, you can go backwards, it'll be stopped, you can go full speed. It's a very cheap feeling controller. There's not much going on inside for guts. Here are the guts for the controller. You got the LED that tells you if you have power. I believe this is a potentiometer to give you the power. It just basically works as a dial going from no power to full power. I don't really understand how this board works. I just think it's cool to show what's on here. Here you got the plug for the power to come in from, and here is the switch to go forwards or backwards. Here's the back of the board, and I can't tell you what any of this does. Down here you got DC controller V1.2. I don't know what that means. Time to put this back together, and truth be told, I'm not that bothered if it doesn't work afterwards because, well, I got no use for this controller. This little bit of plastic here is supposed to be a lockout to stop you from changing the direction while the controller's actually on. So, how about we see this lot run? So, the Hornby Breakdown Hauler. Is it a set I'd recommend? Sure. It's a beginner set. You know, I have no use for this, but to a beginner, would I recommend they get this? Sure. If it's the absolute first train set, sure. I think there's better ones you can get. The Flying Scotsman, the Mallard, any of the freight ones they do. But if you got this, you know, if you came up to me and just said, oh, I've bought a train set, this is the train set, then, oh, cool. There's a couple of interesting pieces like the crane. This has an interesting history. This is pretty boring, actually. There's nothing interesting about this guy. There are a couple of collector-worthy things, I guess. You know, like the history of this model, like the history of this tooling, and how this used to be Lima. But it's really nerdy things that make this interesting. And I mean really, really nerdy. You ask anyone else and they'll probably just tell you it's all junk, it's all really old basic toolings, and there's no point in touching any of them. But to me, I think they're interesting because of their weird little quirks, excluding this because this is really boring and really bad. Seriously, these are so common and usually just have Kellogg's written on the side. You get a good amount of track, you get a fine enough controller, I guess. I don't even know if they still make this train set, but for 60 quid, I can't complain. You know, it was basically a brand new train set for 60 quid. I gave them 60 in the end. I felt bad taking it for only 50. It is fine. You know, the logo's really basic, but it has a little bit of interest in history where it used to be Thomas. And I think it used to be a Clockwork model before that. Yeah, there's a little bit of interest in history with it, but again, it is a really basic tooling. I'd like to turn it into something, I just haven't decided what yet. So, that wraps it up for this week. That's all I have to say about this. So, thanks so much for watching the video. I upload every Saturdays, and I hope to see you next week. Bye bye now.